For this video, I'll be going through the 5 best helicopters in GTA Online. There is a ton of them to choose from, but I do believe that I have narrowed this down to the 5 best. And of course, like these type of videos, I will be including some honorable mentions at the end. So yeah, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, and let's dive straight into it. We will be kicking things off with arguably the weakest helicopter in this list, but this will not mean it is no good. It will be the Iron Mule. This will also be the newest helicopter, only just very recently added to the game. You will be able to find this on the Warstock Cash and Carry website. The main reason the Iron Mule just has to be in this list, in my opinion, really comes down to its utility purposes. It is pretty much just a faster and stronger cargo bob, so if you guys have experienced the cargo bob in the past, you will already know how slow that thing is and how easy it will get destroyed. The Iron Mule has some more resistance at least, and it can also carry vehicles and climb much faster. Definitely worth it in my opinion. However, you cannot use this for absolutely everything across the game, for example in different cell missions, and there is still not too many use cases, but one of the main ones will be for the bunker excess weapon parts. It is extremely useful for them. Shifting down to the 4th spot, I did decide to go for the Savage. Reasons to get the Savage are really obvious. If you have seen this thing before, it will have this sort of jet cannon on the front of it, and this thing just completely devastates anything in your path. With this being the main point of the Savage, it does have some drawbacks. The first drawback being it is technically not a personal aircraft, so you cannot throw on some armor upgrades or even change the handling, and it will be extremely slow in how it can turn and even pick up speed. But for this type of destruction, especially up against extremely overpowered armored vehicles, it still has some really nice use cases in my opinion. I think the Savage comes in most useful in some really solid contact missions, at least the ones where it can be spawned in, and even for some different scenarios in public sessions. For example, trying to eliminate an MOC, which is still to this day one of the most armored vehicles in GTA Online. Again, quite similar to the Iron Mule with its quite limited use case, but still really fun to mess around with because of the cannon. At this point in the video, we are now down to the top 3, and this is where things really move over to the more useful side, instead of just being very specific use cases. And for the 3rd spot, I went for the Akula. Pretty much ever since the Akula was released, it has been quite easily one of the better helicopters, and it really comes down to one of the most game-changing features, which is the stealth ability. When you activate this when using the Akula, you will be completely hidden from the radar, which will make the Akula a really nice, almost game-changing vehicle just based on this alone. For example, when doing your MC cell missions, trying to travel back to an MC business undetected, this will be a really nice thing to use. I think the main use for this would probably be for the special cargo. When you are collecting these different crates, once you pick one up, you can get in the Akula, turn on the stealth feature, and be completely hidden. This will make grinding the hangar business and special cargo much more viable in these public sessions. The Akula can also have bombs, which can be sometimes quite useful. It really just depends how you guys use the Akula. And just remember, once you activate the stealth feature, you cannot use any weapons. However, you can still unactivate the stealth feature, use a weapon, and go straight back in to hiding off the radar, which makes this extremely overpowered. For the 2nd spot, I actually went for the Hunter, which might be a surprising pick for most people, but the Hunter just has so many different firing options. You will have access to bombs very similar to the Akula. You obviously will have the homing missiles, and on top of these 2 standard things, you will also be able to have access to the barrage missiles, which once mastered can be extremely effective. Unfortunately, these things will not be able to lock onto different vehicles, so definitely treat them more of a free-firing homing launcher, and with it being a barrage of these things, you can really cause some insane devastation. Another bonus of the Hunter is how this helicopter looks. I do think it probably has the best appearance. Now, of course, this really comes down to your personal preference, but when I think of an attack helicopter, this is pretty much how I imagine it. I also do think that the Hunter has one of the larger learning curves when trying to adapt to this type of helicopter, especially if you are using the missile barrage all of the time. And the last point on the Hunter is it will climb extremely fast, which could potentially be useful in some different scenarios. Just before we move over to the number 1 spot, I do want to include some honourable mentions. The first honourable mention will be the Valkyrie, and really the only reason I did not include this in the main top 5 is because you will need at least one other player to make the Valkyrie the most effective. If you do have a second player and they enter the passenger seat, not on the side of the vehicle, they will be able to use a really overpowered weapon, almost very similar to a cannon, and depending on the skill of the second passenger, it can be a really effective helicopter. The 2 mini guns on the side of the Valkyrie as well can also be quite effective, so definitely a great helicopter if you guys play with friends or random players. Another really solid honourable mention, which is also a newer sort of vehicle, which will probably be the best alternative to the Akula, will be the Annihilator Stealth. So it will have the exact same stealth feature as the Akula, and I just think that had to get a mention at least. I do think the Akula is just that little bit better, maybe just a bit faster as well, but I still love how the Annihilator Stealth looks. At first I thought it was a little bit goofy, but I was really surprised at this when flying it around. And the last honourable mention just has to be the Buzzard, pretty much a staple in GTA Online in terms of helicopters, and still even to this day extremely fast. Not the fastest helicopter currently, but in terms of versatility and getting your money's worth after purchasing this, the Buzzard is still quite easily one of the better helicopters. And if you do buy this from the Warstock website, it can be called through your CEO vehicles for completely free, instead of costing you $25,000. And now for the number one spot, we just have to go with the Kasatka Sparrow. At the time of recording this video, the Sparrow is the fastest helicopter in the game, and surprisingly, if you guys do not have the Kasatka, I do not even think the Sparrow would even be in this list. It might just break into the top 5, but just pairing this with the Kasatka makes this pretty easily the most useful helicopter across the entire game. Already it is useful because it is the fastest helicopter, but in terms of accessibility, it really is pretty similar to the Buzzard. It can be called through the Kasatka's interaction menu options from the Moonpool vehicles. And of course, it can be parked inside the Kasatka, and unlike the Buzzard, it will not have these annoying missiles where there is a delay between shots, meaning that the Sparrow can just completely devastate different vehicles, continuously shooting missile after missile. I don't know if you guys agree with this, but I do think probably the most underused feature of helicopters will be the bombs. I don't think there's too many use cases for these things. I definitely still think they are still quite useful, but it really just boils down to the different scenarios that you get in. If you want to go all the way up in the sky and drop some bombs, it could be useful for that, say out of the lock-on distance, and I think it comes in most useful with the Akula, being able to hide from the radar, instantly go out of that, drop some bombs and go back in it. So yeah, that will be the top 5 helicopters in GTA Online right now, and honestly I do not really expect Rockstar to release any more helicopters in GTA Online's lifecycle. I would be extremely surprised if we did see another helicopter that released that could break into the top 5, but then again we just saw the Iron Mule get added, so there is always a chance that Rockstar could do that. But yeah, for the most part, these are the only helicopters to worry about. But yeah, I'm really intrigued to hear what you guys think about this list. Do you think I covered most of them, or do you think that I missed out some helicopters that definitely should be in this list? There are still quite a few good ones to choose from, or potentially just some budget options, like for example the Cargo Bob over the Iron Mule if you do not have the Iron Mule trade price. So yeah, definitely make sure to leave your comments below, maybe even give me your list. And with that being said, if you guys went on to enjoy this video or found it useful in any way, shape or form, make sure to leave a like on this video. I always do appreciate your support, and if you are new to the channel and like what you see, subscribe and hit the bell icon to never miss a video. Finally guys, stay safe, thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.